The massive space station rotated slowly against the star field. Ambassador Tae-ho pressed his face to the observation window and watched the alien ship approach. After 3 years of long-distance messages, humanity was finally meeting the Villani Empire face-to-face. Nervous, Dr. So-young asked as she joined him at the window. Her tablet showed readings from the approaching vessel. The Villani ship looked like it was made from crystal and light. It moved without any visible engines or exhaust. A little, Tae-ho admitted. He straightened his diplomatic uniform and checked his translator device for the 10th time. 3 billion people are counting on this meeting going well. Captain Woo Jin walked over with Engineer Bo Ram following behind. Their ship just docked, Woo Jin reported. Security sensors show 3 life forms aboard. 2 large, 1 smaller. That matches what they told us, Tae-ho said. Their supreme negotiator and 2 aides. Bo Ram stared at the alien ship through the window. I've never seen technology like that. The hull seems to shift and change color. How do they do it? That's what we're here to find out, So-young said. Along with their energy technology that could solve our power crisis. The 4 humans made their way to the main conference room. The space station's commander had prepared everything perfectly. Earth's flags hung alongside neutral diplomatic banners. The long table was set with the finest china and crystal glasses filled with clean water. Remember the protocols, Tae-ho said as they took their seats. No sudden movements. Keep voices calm and level. They value beauty and perfection above all else. What if we make a mistake? Bo Ram asked. Then we apologize and try again, Tae-ho replied. They agreed to meet us. That means they want this to work too. The doors opened with a soft hiss. The first alien to enter was tall and thin with pale blue skin and 4 arms. This had to be one of the aides. The second alien looked similar but slightly smaller. Then she entered. Tae-ho had seen pictures and videos during the preliminary negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for seeing Kiraval in person. The Villani Supreme Negotiator moved like she was floating rather than walking. Her skin was completely see-through, showing soft light beneath. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes looked like they held tiny stars. She was the most beautiful being any of the humans had ever seen. Kiraval took her seat at the opposite end of the table without looking at any of the humans. Her skin shifted from clear to pale gold. One of her aides, who had introduced himself as Nortel, spoke first. The Supreme Negotiator acknowledges your presence, Nortel said in perfect English. She is prepared to begin negotiations for trade agreements between the Villani Empire and the planet Earth. Tae-ho stood and bowed slightly. We are honored by your visit, Supreme Negotiator. I am Ambassador Tae-ho, representing Earth's Global Council. These are my colleagues, Dr. So-young, our science advisor, Captain Woo Jin, our security liaison, and Engineer Bo Ram, our technology specialist. Kiraval's eyes moved across each, human as they were introduced. Her skin changed from gold to light blue and back again, but she said nothing. Perhaps we could begin with a formal exchange of credentials? Tae-ho suggested. Nortel nodded and pulled out a crystal tablet. The Villani Empire offers advanced energy technology, medical knowledge, and artistic techniques. In exchange, we require rare mineral resources that exist only on your world. So-young leaned forward. We're particularly interested in your zero-point energy systems. Our scientists have many questions about how they work. For the first time, Kiraval looked directly at So-young. Her skin flashed a deep purple for just a moment. Then it returned to pale gold and she looked away again. The Supreme Negotiator will consider technical exchanges after basic trade terms are established, Nortel said. The meeting continued for 2 hours. Every proposal and question went through Nortel. Kiraval sat silent and still, like a beautiful statue. Sometimes her skin would change colors when the human spoke, but she never responded directly. During a break, the human team gathered in a side room. This is harder than I expected, Tae-ho said. How can we negotiate with someone who won't talk to us? Maybe that's just how they do things, Woo Jin suggested. Some cultures have very formal hierarchies. But she's clearly listening, So-young said. Did you see how her skin changed colors? I think those are emotional responses. Emotional. To what? Boram asked. I'm not sure yet, but she's not as disconnected as she appears. They returned to the conference room. Kiraval was standing by the window, looking out at Earth. The planet hung in space like a blue and white marble. For a moment, she seemed almost sad. The view is quite beautiful, Tejo said as he approached. Kiraval turned toward him. Her eyes met his for just a second before she looked away. Her skin flashed that deep purple color again. She does not engage in casual conversation, Nortel said quickly. Please return to your seats so we may continue. The afternoon session focused on trade quantities and shipping routes. Everything was technical and dry. Kiraval remained silent, but Tejo noticed she paid close attention whenever the humans discussed their planet's history or culture. When Indio, they talked about Earth's music. Her skin turned bright silver. When they mentioned human art, it shifted to warm orange. But when they discussed Earth's wars and conflicts, her skin went dark and stayed that way for several minutes. As the day ended, Tejo tried one more direct approach. Supreme Negotiator, Kiraval, he said formally. We hope these negotiations will lead to a lasting friendship between our peoples. Both Earth and the Vellani Empire have much to offer each other. Kiraval stood gracefully. For a moment, it seemed like she might speak. Her lips parted slightly and her skin brightened. Then she closed her mouth and walked toward the exit. The Supreme Negotiator will consider today's discussions, Nortel said. We will resume tomorrow. After the aliens left, the human team sat in the empty conference room. Well, that was frustrating, Wu Jin said. I don't think she dislikes us, So Young said thoughtfully. Those color changes mean something. She's reacting to what we say. But why won't she talk to us directly? Boram asked. Tejo stared at the empty chair where Kiraval had sat. I don't know, but we need to figure it out. This deal is too important to fail because of a communication problem. Outside the window, the Vellani ship glowed softly in the darkness of space. Somewhere inside, the most beautiful being in the galaxy sat in silence, holding the future of two worlds in her hands. The question was, what would it take to make her speak? 3 days had passed since the first meeting, and Kiraval still had not spoken a single word to any human. Ambassador Tejo sat in his quarters at 2 a.m, reading everything he could find about Vellani culture on his tablet. The files were thin. Most information came from other alien species who had brief contact with the Vellani Empire. All reports said the same thing. The Vellani were beautiful, intelligent, and completely convinced of their own superiority. Beauty is power in their society, Tejo read aloud. Leaders are chosen not just for intelligence but for physical perfection. Beauty queens hold real political authority and are considered the highest form of Vellani achievement. A soft knock interrupted his reading. Dr. So Young stood in the doorway holding a cup of coffee and looking tired. Can't sleep either, she asked. Too much to think about, Tejo replied. Come in. Maybe you can help me understand something. So Young sat down and pulled out her own tablet. I've been studying those color changes in her skin. I think I'm starting to see a pattern. What kind of pattern? Watch this, So Young said, showing him a video recording from that day's meeting. Here's where you mentioned Earth's music. See how her skin turns silver? That's happening when she's interested or curious. Tejo watched the recording. And when it turns purple? I think that's when she's fighting some kind of internal conflict. Like she wants to respond but can't let herself. Can't or won't. That's what I'm trying to figure out. The next morning, the human team gathered early for breakfast. Captain Wu Jin looked frustrated as he pushed food around his plate. This is ridiculous, he said. We're trying to negotiate with someone who treats us like we don't exist. She doesn't treat us like we don't exist, So Young corrected. She's very aware of us. She listens to everything we say. Then why won't she talk to us? Engineer Boram asked. Tejo had been wondering the same thing. I think we need to understand their culture better. There has to be a reason for this behavior. Maybe she thinks we're beneath her. Wu Jin suggested. No, So Young said firmly. I've been watching her face when she thinks no one is looking. She doesn't look disgusted or bored. She looks sad. The morning session was more of the same. Kiraval entered the conference room like a goddess walking among mortals. Her silver hair seemed to glow in the artificial light. Today her skin was a soft blue color that shifted to gold whenever the humans spoke. Every question and comment went through Nortel. The aide was polite but formal, treating the humans like children who needed simple explanations for complex ideas. The Supreme Negotiator finds your mineral samples acceptable, Nortel said after examining Earth's trade offerings. However, the quantities you propose are insufficient for the technology exchange you request. What quantities would be acceptable? Taeho asked. Nortel spoke quietly to Kiraval in their own language. It sounded like music, all flowing vowels and soft consonants. Kiraval listened and then made a gesture with her four hands. Twice your current offer, Nortel translated. That's impossible, Boram said before anyone could stop her. Those mining operations would damage our environment. For the first time, Kiraval looked directly at Boram. Her skin flashed bright orange and her eyes seemed to focus intently on the young engineer. The Supreme Negotiator does not concern herself with your planetary management problems, Nortel said coldly. But Taeho had seen something in Kiraval's expression. For just a moment she had looked interested, maybe even concerned. During the lunch break, So Young pulled Taeho aside. I found something, she said, showing him her tablet. Look at this old report from a trader who visited the Villani home system 50 years ago. Taeho read the brief passage. He says their planet looked scarred, sections that seemed dead or damaged. And look at this, So Young said, pulling up another file. A diplomatic report from the Alpha Centauri delegation. They mentioned that Villani negotiators always travel with medical staff and beauty specialists. So why would beings who are naturally perfect need beauty specialists? Taeho thought about this. Maybe they're not naturally perfect. The afternoon session focused on technology transfers. The humans were eager to learn about Villani energy systems, but every question met the same response. Such information cannot be shared until trade agreements are finalized, Nortel said repeatedly. Captain Wu Jin was getting visibly frustrated. How can we agree to trade terms without knowing what we're getting in return? You have seen demonstrations of our capabilities, Nortel replied. That should be sufficient. No, it's not sufficient, Wu Jin said, his voice rising. We need technical specifications, safety data, implementation requirements. Kiraval's skin suddenly turned deep red. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. For a moment she stared directly at Wu Jin with an expression that could have melted steel. Then she sat back down, and her skin returned to its normal pale gold color. The Supreme Negotiator does not appreciate raised voices, Nortel said stiffly. I apologize, Wu Jin said quickly. I didn't mean to offend. Kiraval glanced at him when he apologized. Her skin flickered purple for just an instant. After the meeting ended and the Villani delegation left, the humans remained in the conference room. Did you see that? So Young asked excitedly. When you apologized, she reacted. She looked angry. When I raised my voice, Wu Jin said. No, not then, when you said you were sorry. Her skin changed color. Taeho thought back to the moment. You're right. She did react to the apology. What does that mean? Boram asked. I'm not sure yet, Taeho said. But it's something. That evening, Taeho stood alone in the observation lounge, watching the Villani ship. Its crystal surface pulsed with soft light like a heartbeat. He wondered what Kiraval was doing inside. Was she thinking about the negotiations? Was she as frustrated as the humans were? Dr. So Young joined him at the window. I've been thinking about what you said, she told him. About them not being naturally perfect. And what if their whole society is built around hiding imperfections? What if beauty isn't just valued in their culture but required? Taeho turned to look at her. Required for what? For survival, for acceptance, for the right to exist. The idea sent a chill down Taeho's spine. That would explain the silence. How? If showing any weakness or imperfection is dangerous, then talking to alien species would be a huge risk. What if she makes a mistake? What if she says something wrong? So, Young nodded slowly. So she lets her aide do all the talking. That way she can maintain her perfect image. But that means she's trapped, Taeho realized. She can't communicate directly because she can't risk being less than perfect. They stood in silence, watching the alien ship pulse with its mysterious light. Somewhere inside, the most beautiful being in the galaxy sat alone with her silence, carrying secrets that might be the key to understanding her people. Tomorrow would bring another day of negotiations, another day of questions without answers, of words spoken to empty air, unless they could find a way to reach past the wall of perfection that surrounded Kiraval like invisible armor. The future of two worlds hung in the balance, waiting for someone to find the courage to be imperfect. The alien beauty queen refused to speak until the human said, "I'm sorry." Part 3, Breaking Point. The seventh day of negotiations started like all the others, but something felt different. Kiraval entered the conference room with her usual grace, but Ambassador Taeho noticed small changes. Her silver hair seemed less bright, and her skin stayed a dull gold color instead of shifting through its usual rainbow of emotions. Dr. So-young had spent the night researching in the station's database. She pulled Taeho aside before the morning session began. "I found something important," she whispered, showing him her tablet. "Look at this old scientific report about the Vellani home system." Taeho read quickly. The report was from a deep space probe that had passed through Vellani territory 20 years ago. It described a solar system with one inhabited planet and several destroyed worlds. "Destroyed how?" Taeho asked. "The report says they show signs of warfare. Massive bombing, nuclear damage, complete ecological collapse. Maybe they had a war with another species." So-young shook her head. "No, the dating shows it happened much earlier. Before they had space travel. This was civil war, Taeho. They destroyed their own worlds." The morning session began with discussions about shipping routes and delivery schedules. Everything was going normally until Engineer Boram made a simple comment about the beautiful design of the Vellani ship. "The way your hull changes colors is amazing," Boram said to Nortel. "Our engineers would love to understand how you achieve such perfect aesthetic integration with functional systems." Nortel started to translate, but something went wrong with the computer system. The words that came out in the Vellani language were completely different. Instead of complimenting their ship design, the translation suggested that human technology was superior, and Vellani aesthetics were primitive. Kiraval's reaction was immediate and terrifying. Her skin flashed bright red, then deep black. She stood so quickly her chair fell backward. Her eyes blazed with fury as she stared at Boram. "Wait," Taeho said quickly. "There was a translation error. That's not what she meant." But Nortel was already speaking rapidly in their musical language, clearly upset by what he thought he had heard. The other Vellani aide moved to stand protectively near Kiraval. "The Supreme Negotiator finds your insults unacceptable," Nortel said, his voice cold with anger. "To suggest that Vellani artistic achievements are inferior? No, that's not what happened." Captain Wu Jin interrupted. "The computer made a mistake. We would never insult your culture." Kiraval's skin was cycling through colors rapidly now. Red, black, deep purple, then back to red. Her hands were shaking slightly, and for the first time since they had met her, she looked truly vulnerable. Taeho realized this was about more than just a translation error. This reaction was too strong, too emotional for a simple misunderstanding. "Please," he said, standing slowly with his hands visible. "There has been a mistake. Engineer Boram was trying to compliment your technology, not criticize it." Kiraval looked directly at him. Her eyes were wide and seemed to hold centuries of pain. Her skin flickered between purple and gold, like she was fighting some internal battle. For a moment, Tae-ho thought she was going to speak. Her lips parted and she took a breath. Then she closed her mouth again and turned toward the door. The Supreme Negotiator requires time to consider this incident, Nortel said formally. We will communicate our decision about continuing these negotiations. The Vellani delegation left quickly. Kiraval walked out without looking back, but Tae-ho saw her skin flash that deep purple color one more time before the doors closed. The humans sat in stunned silence for several minutes. What just happened? Boram asked quietly. I was trying to be nice. It wasn't your fault, So-young said. Something about aesthetic criticism really triggered her. More than triggered, Wu Jin observed. She looked scared. Tae-ho was thinking about the research So-young had shown him. Destroyed worlds, civil war, a society rebuilt around beauty and perfection. So-young, can you access more historical records about the Vellani? He asked. I'll try, but most of their history is classified or restricted. Try the Galactic Council archives. Look for refugee reports, asylum requests, anything from Vellani citizens who might have left their home system. While So-young worked on her research, Tae-ho tried to understand what he had seen in Kiraval's eyes. It wasn't just anger about an insult, it was deeper than that. It was fear. 2 hours later, So-young found what they were looking for. Here, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Asylum request from a Vellani citizen named Telmar, filed 15 years ago with the Centauri Republic. She read from the file. Requesting protection from Vellani Authority Council. Accused of aesthetic deviation and scheduled for correction procedures. My family was eliminated for failing beauty standards during the Great Purification. I am the last survivor of my genetic line. Great Purification? Tae-ho asked. So-young continued reading. According to this, it happened 300 years ago. The Vellani government decided that only the most beautiful and perfect citizens should be allowed to live. They systematically eliminated anyone who didn't meet their aesthetic standards. That's genocide, Wu Jin said quietly. It gets worse, So-young said. Look at this part. The correction procedures continue today. Any Vellani citizen who shows signs of imperfection, aging, or aesthetic decline is taken for mandatory enhancement, or elimination. Tae-ho felt sick. So their entire society is built on the fear of being judged imperfect. And killed for it, So-young added. No wonder she won't speak to us, Boram realized. If she makes any mistake, shows any weakness, her own people might consider her imperfect. But we're not her people, Wu Jin pointed out. Doesn't matter, Tae-ho said. When you've lived your entire life knowing that any flaw could mean death, you can't take risks, even with friendly aliens. The pieces were starting to fit together. Kiraval's silence wasn't arrogance, it was survival. Her perfect appearance wasn't natural, it was maintained through fear. Her emotional reactions to their words weren't about superiority. They were about terror of being found lacking. So what do we do? Boram asked. Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated. Nortel's voice filled the room. The Vellani delegation will depart in 2 hours, he announced. The Supreme Negotiator has determined that cultural differences make productive negotiations impossible. Tae-ho looked at his team. They had 2 hours to save not just the negotiations, but possibly to help a being who had lived her entire life in a beautiful prison of fear. We need to talk to her, he said. Directly. No translator, no aid. Just her. How? So-young asked. She won't even look at us now. I don't know yet, Tae-ho admitted, but we have to try. She's not just a negotiator. She's a person trapped by her own culture's impossible standards. Outside the conference room windows, the Vellani ship was already beginning to power up its engines. Time was running out, and with it, the last chance to bridge the gap between two worlds. More importantly, it might be the last chance to show one lonely, frightened being that perfection wasn't the only way to be worthy of existence. Ambassador Tae-ho walked through the space station corridors with purpose. He had 90 minutes before the Vellani ship departed. 90 minutes to do something that had never been attempted in galactic diplomatic history. Dr. So-young caught up with him near the docking bay. Are you sure about this? She asked. Going to their ship without permission could be seen as an act of war. Not if I go alone and unarmed, Taeho replied. Besides, what's the worst they can do, refuse to see me? They're already leaving. Captain Wu Jin and Engineer Bo Ram waited by the airlock connecting to the Villani vessel. The beautiful crystal ship hummed with energy as its systems prepared for departure. The docking bay sensors show all 3 Villani are aboard, Wu Jin reported. They haven't activated their shields yet, so the airlock is still functional. Good, Taeho said. He took a deep breath and activated the communication panel. Villani vessel, this is Ambassador Taeho. I request permission to come aboard alone. I want to speak with Supreme Negotiator Kira Val personally. There was a long silence. Then Nortel's voice came through the speaker. That is not possible. The Supreme Negotiator does not meet with outsiders in private. Please, Taeho said. I think there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Not just about the translation error, but about everything. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Another silence. Taeho could hear voices speaking in the musical Villani language on the other end. Finally, the airlock began to cycle open. You may board, Nortel said stiffly, but you will be escorted at all times. Taeho stepped through the airlock into a world of impossible beauty. The Villani ship's interior looked like it was carved from a single enormous jewel. Light flowed through the walls like water, and the air itself seemed to shimmer. Nortel met him just inside the entrance. The tall alien's expression was cold and unwelcoming. You have 5 minutes, Nortel said. The Supreme Negotiator is in the meditation chamber. Follow me, and do not touch anything. They walked through corridors that curved and flowed like living things. Everything was perfect, polished to an impossible shine. There were no rough edges anywhere, no imperfections of any kind. The meditation chamber was a circular room with walls that showed the stars outside. Kira Val sat in the center on a cushion that seemed to be made of crystallized light. She was even more beautiful here in her own environment, but Taeho could see something new in her posture. She looked tired. Supreme Negotiator, Nortel said, in their language. Kira Val looked up. When she saw Taeho, her skin shifted to that familiar purple color. She stood gracefully but said nothing. I wanted to apologize, Taeho said directly to her, ignoring Nortel completely. Not for the translation error, but for not understanding sooner. Kira Val tilted her head slightly. Her skin flickered between purple and gold. You do not speak to the Supreme Negotiator directly, Nortel said sharply. All communication must go through proper channels. No, Taeho said, still looking at Kira Val. I think she can speak for herself, if she wants to. Kira Val's eyes widened. Her skin began cycling through colors more rapidly. We know about the Great Purification, Taeho said gently. We know about the correction procedures. We know what happens to Villani who are considered imperfect. Nortel stepped forward angrily. You have no right to speak of internal Villani matters. But Kira Val raised one of her hands, stopping him. For the first time, she looked directly into Taeho's eyes and held his gaze. You think I won't speak because I believe you are inferior, Taeho continued. But that's not it, is it? You won't speak because you're afraid of making a mistake, afraid of seeming imperfect. Kira Val's skin was now flashing rapidly between deep purple and bright gold. Her breathing had quickened, and her hands were trembling slightly. That's enough, Nortel said. You will leave immediately. Your beauty isn't natural, Taeho said, his voice soft but clear. It's maintained through fear. Every day you have to be perfect or face correction. You can't risk showing weakness, not even to friendly aliens who want to help your people. Tears began, forming in Kira Val's star-like eyes. Her skin turned a deep blue color that Taeho had never seen before. You are wrong, Nortel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Taeho asked, still speaking to Kira Val. Then why haven't you said a single word to us? Why do you communicate only through others? What are you so afraid of? Kira Val took a step toward him. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. "It's okay to be imperfect," Taeho said. "It's okay to make mistakes. That's how humans learn and grow. We don't eliminate people for having flaws. We help each other become better." "Lies," Nortel said, but he sounded uncertain. "Is it?" Taeho asked. "Then why are we here? Why did we travel across the galaxy to meet you? If we thought you were perfect, we wouldn't have anything to offer. We came because we believe different species can help each other, learn from each other." Kiraval was shaking now. Her skin had turned almost white, and tears were flowing down her perfect cheeks. "You don't have to be perfect to be worthy," Taeho said. "You don't have to be flawless to deserve respect. You're valuable just as you are, mistakes and all." "Stop," Nortel commanded. "You are causing distress to the Supreme Negotiator." "No," Taeho said. "I think I'm offering something she's never had before. The chance to be human." Kiraval made a sound, almost like a sob. She covered her face with her hands, and her skin cycled through every color Taeho had ever seen, and several he hadn't. "The right to be imperfect," Taeho continued. "The right to make mistakes and still be accepted. The right to learn and grow, instead of being corrected or eliminated." Through her hands, Kiraval whispered something in her own language. It was so quiet that Taeho almost missed it. "What did she say?" he asked Nortel. The aide looked uncomfortable. She said she is tired of being perfect." Taeho felt his heart break a little. This beautiful, powerful being was trapped in a prison of impossible standards, afraid to show even the smallest flaw. "You don't have to be perfect with us," he said gently. "We won't judge you for being real." Kiraval lowered her hands and looked at him again. Her face was streaked with tears, her perfect appearance finely flawed. And somehow she was more beautiful than ever. She opened her mouth and spoke her first words directly to a human being. I am so tired," she whispered in accented but clear English. The words hung in the air like music. "I am so tired." The first words Kiraval had ever spoken directly to a human being. Ambassador Taeho felt tears in his own eyes. "Then rest," he said gently. "You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore." Nortel stepped forward, clearly alarmed by what was happening. "Supreme Negotiator, you should not—" "Please," Kiraval said, still looking at Taeho. Her voice was stronger now, more confident. "Let me speak." She turned to face her aide. "Nortel, you have served me faithfully, but I need to do this myself." The tall alien looked shocked. In all his years of service, he had never heard his leader speak so directly about her own needs. Kiraval walked to the window, showing the stars. Her skin was cycling through soft blues and purples now, colors that seemed peaceful rather than distressed. "Do you know what it is like?" she asked Taeho. "To wake up every morning knowing that a single flaw could mean death?" "No," Taeho admitted. "I can't imagine living with that fear." "I have been Supreme Negotiator for 20 years, Kiraval continued. 20 years of never saying the wrong word, never showing weakness, never letting anyone see the real me." Touched the crystal wall with one hand. "My grandmother was eliminated during the Great Purification. My mother survived by winning beauty contests that were really survival trials. I learned very young that perfection was not a choice. It was life or death." Taeho stepped closer. "But you're not on your homeworld now. You're here with us." Kiraval turned to look at him. "Yes, but old fears are hard to break. When you spend your whole life hiding your true self, it becomes impossible to show it, even when you want to." "What is your true self?" Taeho asked. For the first time since he had met her, Kiraval smiled. It was a small, uncertain smile, but it was real. "I love learning about other cultures," she said. "When you spoke about Earth's music, I wanted to ask so many questions. When your engineer mentioned your art, I wished I could share our own artistic traditions with you." "You can," Taeho said. "Right now. There's nothing stopping you." "There is," Nortel said quietly. "The Authority Council expects a full report on these negotiations. If they learn that the Supreme Negotiator showed irregularities, then don't report the irregularities, Kiraval said firmly. Report that I successfully negotiated a beneficial trade agreement with the humans. She walked back to the center of the room, and Taeho saw something new in her posture. She stood straighter, more confident. I want to tell you about my people, she said to Taeho. Not the official version, but the truth. Over the next hour, Kiraval shared stories that had never been told to outsiders. She spoke of Villani artists who created beautiful works in secret, knowing they would be destroyed if discovered. She told him about citizens who helped each other hide small imperfections, forming underground networks of support. We are not naturally perfect, she admitted. We work very hard to appear perfect. The beauty treatments, the surgical corrections, the constant monitoring of our appearance and behavior. It never stops. That sounds exhausting, Taeho said. It is, and it's lonely. When you can never show weakness, you can never truly connect with others. But you're connecting now, Taeho pointed out. Kiraval's skin shifted to a warm gold color. Yes, for the first time in my life, I am having a real conversation with someone who doesn't expect me to be perfect. Nortel had been listening quietly. Now he spoke up, his voice uncertain. Supreme Negotiator, if I may ask, how do humans handle imperfection in their leaders? Taeho thought about this. We expect our leaders to make mistakes sometimes. When they do, we want them to admit it, learn from it, and do better next time. And they are not eliminated? No. We believe that someone who has made mistakes and learned from them is wiser than someone who has never been tested. Nortel's skin shifted to a pale blue color. That is a very different way of thinking. Different doesn't mean wrong, Kiraval said. She looked at Taeho. I want to learn more about your way of thinking. Will you teach me? I'd be honored to, Taeho replied. But first we need to finish our negotiations. Yes, Kiraval said, her voice growing stronger. And I want to conduct them myself. No more speaking through others. They returned to the space station conference room where Dr. So Young, Captain Woo Jin, and Engineer Bo Ram waited anxiously. When Kiraval entered and sat down directly across from Taeho, their expressions showed pure amazement. I apologize for my previous behavior, Kiraval said to the group. I was afraid. But Ambassador Taeho has helped me understand that fear is not a good foundation for friendship between peoples. We're just glad you're here, So Young said warmly. Over the next several hours, they worked out the details of the trade agreement. Kiraval asked many questions, some of which showed gaps in her knowledge. Each time she admitted to not understanding something, her skin would flicker purple briefly, then return to gold. I am still learning not to fear imperfection, she explained, when Bo Ram noticed this. It is difficult to change habits formed over a lifetime. Take all the time you need, Bo Ram said kindly. We're patient. When they discussed Earth's environmental concerns about mining operations, Kiraval listened carefully. On my world, we destroyed much of our environment during the civil wars, she said. I do not want that to happen to your beautiful planet. Perhaps we can find alternative ways to obtain what we need. You would do that? Woo Jin asked, surprised. True partnership means caring about each other's well-being, Kiraval replied. I am learning this from you. As the day ended, they had reached agreements that satisfied both sides. More importantly, they had built the foundation for real friendship between their peoples. There is one more thing I want to share, Kiraval said, as they prepared to sign the final documents. I have decided to request that some of my people be allowed to study human culture directly. Why? Taeho asked. Because you have something we lost long ago, she said. The courage to be imperfect. The wisdom to see that flaws do not make someone worthless. Perhaps learning from you can help us heal the wounds in our own society. She paused, her skin shifting to warm silver. And because I believe that understanding each other is more valuable than any trade agreement. 6 months later, the first group of Villani cultural exchange students arrived on Earth. They came not as perfect beings observing inferior creatures, but as people eager to learn about resilience, growth, and the beauty of imperfection. Kira Val was among them. She spent her days learning about human art, music, and philosophy. She made mistakes in pronunciation, asked simple questions, and slowly learned to see these imperfections not as failures, but as steps on the path to understanding. The alliance between Earth and the Villani Empire became one of the strongest in galactic history. But more than that, it became a symbol of what was possible when people had the courage to show their true selves. And it all began with two simple words. I'm sorry. Not an apology for a mistake, but an acknowledgement of pain, an offer of understanding, and an invitation to be human,